Hi everyone, and this is a quick video. Somebody has sent me an email asking about how you go about tackling situations when you get into the church and the vicar or they're being funny with you or telling you can't go somewhere or you can't take shots through the ceremony. Well, basically what I'll do is I'll give you a few little things that have happened to me and how I cope with it. One of the easiest ways to sort that out right, it is to actually have a word and do your preparations beforehand first. So in reality, you should have had a word with the vicar beforehand, and you should know that you're not allowed to use flash, that you're not allowed to walk around the church, that you're not allowed to do this, that you're not allowed to do that, that they're not going to let you take this shot. So that's really one of the most important things, and one of the best things that I can tell you is to have a word with the vicar and know beforehand what you can and you can't do. That way you can discuss with the vicar and also discuss with the bride and groom. If the vicar says, look, I don't like anybody taking shots during the ceremony because I just don't like it, you have to stand at the back of the church, which can happen. Well, the bride and groom will already know that, and they'll know that as well. Whereas if you just get there on the day and you haven't really bothered to go speak to the vicar or whoever's marrying them, and he goes, by the way, you've got to stand at the back, then the bride and groom don't know that, and they're probably not going to be very impressed afterwards. So you can sort out with the vicar that if he says, look, I don't want you taking pictures, I don't want you to take a picture of the ceremony, I don't want you to take pictures of when they're signing the register, we'll have to mock it afterwards, then unfortunately that's what you'll have to do. And it is annoying because especially over here in the UK and where I live, it's not about, like you'll hear vicars say it's about God, but it isn't. It's about money. If you pay extra money where I live, you can have video during ceremony. I mean, I know churches have said to bride and groom, if you give us 200 quid, they can video and they can do what they want. So, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, it is annoying because a lot of churches now use religion and God to get their own way. But unfortunately, you've got to go with it. You can't say, look, well, if I give 50 quid I can, what's that all about? Even though there's many circumstances where I've felt like saying it, unfortunately you can't. If for any reason you can't use flash, you should be doing the wedding for free or the job for free, which means that if your camera's not capable of pulling out stunning images, well that's fine because you've done it for free and nobody can complain when they're getting something for no. So make sure that you don't, I'd actually go not relying on flash. I always think that when I do the ceremony, at least, that I'm not allowed to use flash. I always ask, so if I am, I may use it, but I always know beforehand whether I can or I can't. So that's really important that you do that. Just shuffle around. Yeah, it's very, very important that you find out whether you can use flash, and at least then you know. If you, I mean, you'd be in the shit if you turn up with an f5.6 or a crap lens and you're not allowed to use flash. If you ain't got a good camera, you're going to be screwed and you're going to have really, really grainy images, which you're going to have to turn into all black and white. So I highly recommend. My recommendations are, I don't know what your kit is, you never said, I don't think you said. You may have said, you may not have. Always take a nifty 50 with you. My recommendations, they do it for Nikon and they do it for Canon. It's a £100 lens and that'll get you out of any situation. Yes, you're locked in at 50mm, but it doesn't matter. You would still get decent images out of it instead of shooting at f5.6 and having loads and tons of grain if your camera's not that good. So have a nifty 50 with you. And there's times when I was learning that I used the nifty 50 through the full ceremony, and it saved me bacon because I wasn't allowed to use flash. I'd be careful when you're using flash as well. I don't know if you can see this on the video, but I've just bought one of these, which is a flash bender. It's not the Rogue one. I did have one that I made on a video for about £2, but I found out that when you was outside, it used to bend all over, so I've bought a proper one now. That is handy to use that because it doesn't put people off. If you're going to be going direct as a bit of fill, I have actually had, at the last wedding I did, the registrar said, excuse me, she says, I know I said you can use flash, but can you turn it off? And it was embarrassing, but you know, she said I could use it, and my flash bender had actually ripped. I had my own made one, and it ripped outside when I was doing some group shots on the steps, so I didn't use it, and so I'm telling you from experience. So I turned it off. I went, no problem, and that was that. She actually said as well, which was really upsetting, she said, can you not take very many pictures? And I'd already discussed it with her 20 minutes before. You can do what you want, you can use flash, you can take as many pictures as you like, just don't get in my way, which I didn't. I was a fair distance away, shooting with a 24-105, and she still said that, and in reality she'd gone back on her own words, but unfortunately I couldn't go up and argue with her. As much as I didn't like it. The bride afterwards said to me, she said, I can't believe it. She said, she's really pissed me off. She said, we've done his homework, and that will happen to you sometimes. Vicars will tell you one thing and you'll get there and they'll say another, and unfortunately you've got to go with what they say. If you have got to mock it, you have got to mock it. If a vicar says to you, if I went up to a vicar, because I know you put this on the email, if the vicar said, I'm not allowing you to mock it either, I would then make the vicar, me personally, I'd say, well, can you do me a favour and come over and tell that to the bride and groom, because they've paid me a lot of money for this and you're saying that we can't take any shots. I don't think you would get a vicar do that, but that'd be my approach. As long as the vicar went up to the bride and went, look, I know you've paid him lots of money, but he's not taking any shots because we don't allow it, then that'd be up to the bride and groom to take that up with the vicar afterwards and maybe take legal action or whatever. But I don't think a vicar would do that, to be fair. There's some really bad snotty-nosed vicars that I've met, and most of them are lovely. They're absolutely fine. It's only the odd one or two that you get that can be funny, and unfortunately, you've just got to roll with it. Make sure, again, sometimes you'll get vicars, they'll say to you, priest, whatever, they'll say you need to stand there and you can't move, which is annoying. But usually, if they say that, you need to tell the groom at least, because you'll always be in the church with the groom before the bride arrives, and say, look, he's making me stand there, so I'm sorry, that's where your picture's going to be from. And then if you need to mock the ring shot or mock something after, then unfortunately you'll have to mock it. It does kind of put pressure on you, because you're already under pressure enough, but after they've been married, you've got to tell the vicar to stand there and do it again. And to be fair, most of them don't like doing that. So you'll find out a lot of vicars will just tell you to stay out of the way. So it is nice if you've got a telephoto lens on. That's a tip. If you've got a telephoto lens on, you can stand back and out of the bloody way. So he's not going to be bothered anyway. He can do what you bloody like. He's just not going to care. And that's why a lot of people do like to actually stand around the back of the church, because they've realised that shooting at 200mm or 150mm gets them out of the way, and it doesn't annoy the vicar whatsoever, because if you're not in his way, you're not going to annoy him. But it is hard, because when you first start, your 70-200 might be an f5.6 when you've got it zoomed in. And if you can't use flash, you're going to have to be up at ISO 6400, and it is grainy. But unfortunately, I used to live with that grain. I used to shoot with a Tamron 70-300 with VC on at like 30th, 50th of a second, no flash at 6400, and I'd just tidy them up in post. I wasn't happy. I would have rather shot at bloody 1600, but if you ain't got the funds to go out and buy that big posh lens, then you ain't got the funds. You have to use what you can use. As long as you keep the price reasonable and you're charging what you're worth, then I'm sure nobody's gonna say anything. And if you watch my previous videos, how many countless videos have I done printing images at ISO 6400 at A4, and you can see jack all. That noise is only a problem when we come into Lightroom and we zoom into 100% and go, oh, it's grainy. But we print it out A4 and it looks stunning. There's a little bit of noise, but it's not a problem whatsoever. And that's it really. That's my tips for you. Obviously be careful with the vicar, because they can, if you be cheeky with them, as much as some of them deserve it, to be honest, they can stop the ceremony, but they can do what they want. So yeah, just go in prepared. Biggest thing I can say to you is make sure you meet the vicar first, even if you've got to go on your own and talk to him, and then let the bride and the groom know what he said, and that way you've covered your back. So if the vicar's a real funny bugger who says you can't take hardly any pictures, well, the bride and groom, they're expecting it. And then it's up to them to take it up with the vicar and say, well, no, this ain't good enough. We've paid you X amount of pounds and God wouldn't usually charge money and you've charged me 800 quid for church and stuff like that, because that's what they do, isn't it? They say it's about God, but they're taking hundreds of pounds off you for doing it. And I don't think God would have took all that money off you anyway. But that's religion, and unfortunately what you've got to deal with. I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe.